It's another LUKE-N-SHAE'S podcast production. And as always, we ask that you like, share, subscribe, and comment. And be sure to turn on your notifications to let you know when LUKE-N-SHAE is putting out another hot banger video. What's up? What's good, YouTube? This is Luke, and I'm back. I'm back in the studios doing work again. Been busy doing a lot of work, so I thought I'd jump on here and throw out you some good content. Once again, I would like to say a big up to and welcome back our LUKE-N-SHAE Plays family. Those are our subscribers. And to those new listeners and those new people that just jumped on, just finding out about the channel, we would like to extend a warm LUKE-N-SHAE'S Place welcome for you to join by going down there and subscribing right now. And don't just subscribe. Make sure you hit the notification bell so you know every time we drop another banger video. So like I said, I'm back in the studio and I'm going to do some work now. I got some time to do some work. Like I said, we always welcome in new family members. Always subscribe, like, share, and definitely comment. You know, we definitely want to get your feedback to hear what you think and how you feel about these things. So, like I said, we're going to, I would like to extend a warm welcome and thank you all for joining me for another LUKE-N-SHAE Plays podcast. It's another LUKE-N-SHAE'S Plays production. And we love extending and doing these videos for you guys. So, like I said, it is what it is out here today. So I would like for you to join me because it's a young man, John Griffin. And he has a video, and he's talking about why married men lose self-respect and why they call men who are married simps, and where you find yourself simping at. He tells a story about his life. He's a life coach now. And in the video, John shares some painful truths about married men often lose self-respect and dignity in their relationships. He explains how simping and seeking external validation can lead to a loss of self-respect, not just from their partner, but also from themselves. Griffin provides a valuable insight and life coaching tools to help a man develop his emotional intelligence, emotional resilience, and a healthier sense of masculinity. But understanding the red pill mindset and nurturing the dignity, men can become a better version of themselves, of course, and avoid the pitfalls of divorce. So if you're struggling with low self-esteem and mental health issues and relationship problems, this video is for you. Learn how to take back control and build a healthy masculine principles that develop confidence you need to thrive in a personal and professional life. And so John has some very insightful things. So we're going to, like I said, it's a lot being said here and a lot being done. Like I said, I haven't seen the whole video, so you'll be catching it as I catch it. So I'm going to comment as the show goes on here. And so, there we go. Okay. So I hope everyone is in good spirit today. That's another thing. I didn't extend that because I know everybody is, things are going on. People are having, dealing with some tough times in life right now. So I'm hoping and praying that everybody is doing well and that everyone is feeling well as well. It's important to feel well, look well, think well, and be well. So, like I said, I'm going to go ahead with no further ado, no more delays. I'm going to go ahead and get this thing set up and we're going to get started with the video. Yeah, it's been a while since I've done this, so y'all got to bear with me just a little bit. But here we are. We're ready to go. We're ready to go. And again, like I say, as always, remember to like, share, and subscribe. And please, leave your comments. Let me know what you think. Let me know if it was insightful. Let me know if it was helpful to you. Okay, let's go ahead. With no further ado, let's hit this video.
About 10 years ago, my oldest daughter was about 15 years old. And I was driving her and her best friend to the mall or the movies or something like that. And I was overhearing them. I was eavesdropping on them, talking about their social lives. And they were gossiping about some guy who was simping on some girl.
Simping.
Now, being a middle-aged man, the word simp was not part of my vocabulary. And as a curious person, I interjected and asked the question, what is a simp? And they both rolled their eyes and giggled at me because I was stupid. And they proceeded to tell me their definition of a simp, which was essentially that this guy is just giving her all this stuff, no self-respect, and she's basically using him. Anyway, I looked it up in the Urban Dictionary or whatever and found that a simp is a man who will dedicate all of his resources, time, energy, money to a woman who really doesn't have any interest in him, and he will do it at the expense of his self-respect and dignity. Well, it didn't take very long, maybe my next thought or two, for me to realize in my marriage that I had become a simp. It was a bit of a shock. I could feel the shame kind of rush over me all at once, where I realized that I had become that I was that guy that they would have been laughing at. Yeah, it was pretty tough to handle. It was pretty unnerving in a way. And I had to give some thought to how this happened. I wasn't like this before. How did this happen to me? How did I become a simp? How had marriage turned me into a simp? That's what I'm going to talk about. How marriage can turn even the most masculine, self-confident men into weak, quivering simps, given enough time. Let's talk about it. I believe simping occurs on a spectrum. So you can be a minor simp, or you can be a major simp.
Different levels of simping.
Simping and seduction are separated by a very thin line. So when you're dating a girl, you're getting to know a girl for the first time, you don't know whether or not she likes you or not. So you might, in your endeavor to seduce this girl, overdo it a little bit. That's not simping. No, that's seduction. Now, if she says, I've already got a boyfriend, or she blows you off with something else, like, yeah, I'm not interested in dating anyone right now, and you continue to lavish her with gifts, money, and attention, and become her emotional tampon so she can cry on your shoulder whenever her boyfriend is giving her a hard time, well, then you've crossed that line. You've gone over to being a simp.
Wow. Yeah.
When you're married, technically.
See, I like how you broke that down. How you distinguish between the two of just what is simping and what is the actual act of a man pursuing a woman to like I say, for that relationship. And yeah, in the beginning, you want to put your best foot forward. You want them to know that, you're a good person for the most part. But where's the fine line of being a good person and going above and beyond and doing things? Because most women want you to do all these things. They want all of it. They want every bit of it. But like I said, if you give a person everything they want, then they're less likely to continue to respect you because they haven't seen the other side of it. They have a tough time understanding, well, okay, where the line draws off. Because if you be too good and give, like I said, it's just like with anyone, you give a person everything they want, okay, instead of there's nothing here to work for, there's nothing, no goal set to get to this level or that level. Well, you know what? The person will then begin to take these things for granted, just like we do all the time, in religious life and just in relationships and everything. After a while, things are taken for granted because you've always gotten everything. But a lot of times, what men do today, we're taught to be nice by nature. That's what we're taught, even from preschool. You never hit a girl, you never do this, you don't do that. You make sure that the girl is taken care of. If your little sister or cousin, you don't let people hit them, or you don't hit them. And so you always were taught these things to be nice, and that niceness would reward you, would be rewarded for your niceness. And so in this world today, it's the opposite. Your niceness is seen as being stupid, and you don't want to be that neither. And this is where the fine line between simping takes off. Let's listen to more of this.
Technically, it's hard to be a simp because you've already won the girl. You know what I mean? So you've already done all the right things. You've gotten there. You have expressed whatever level of masculinity was necessary for you to achieve that. And you are now in a marriage with a woman. You have hit the ultimate relationship. You have won the race. You are in. Yet somehow, from this perspective, from having been the boyfriend, from having seduced the girl, from having achieved all of the accolades associated with being a good man, having crossed over into being marriage material. And now you're married. And for some reason, 5, 10, 15 years later, you find yourself acting like a simp. This happens a lot. In fact, I would suggest that this happens in the majority of marriages.
Exactly.
The thing is, most middle-aged men and older don't know what a simp is, so they don't realize that they're doing it. But yeah, it happens quite often.
Yeah, our brothers out here simping and don't know they simping, especially the middle age. See, middle-aged men.
So how is it that perfectly good men can go from being confident, masculine, pulled together, the boyfriend, the husband, have all their shit together, and eventually evolve into being a simp? Well, it starts when we're kids, and we don't realize it when it's happening, but we are taught, especially as boys, that there is honor in sacrifice, that sacrificing yourself for a larger cause
Exactly.
is an honorable act. And we see all the war movies and all the great stories about how men sacrifice themselves and their own well-being for the benefit of others. And marriage is the perfect opportunity and the perfect excuse for men to do that, to put their wife and their kids, their family ahead of their own needs. And most men, when they enter into marriage, are of that mindset. Like they're going to do whatever.
See, that was key right there, because men are taught that, and all men are taught that you value your family above everything else. You go above and beyond for your family. See, you want to work 2 or 3 jobs to make sure your family is provided for and taken care of. You do the things that are needed inside to make sure your family goes. That's the thing. You want to make sure your wife is taken care of. Like, make sure the oil is in the car, that the oil is right in the car, better yet. To check her oil, to check the tire pressure, make sure gas is in it, make sure her car is running properly, make sure she don't break down, because these things were seen as honorable. But the true question today is, do women see this as honorable, or do they see it as just a part of what a man's supposed to do? Because in all fairness, this is honorable. So that's why men have always done this, and we've always taken care of these things in that mindset, because that's what men do. We're raised to do these things. And I often ask my co-host, Shay, I say, well, what is it that a woman was raised to do for her husband? See, because we've always, as men, we've always been taught these things. These things were always on the forefronts, meaning that you heard this like on an everyday basis. Okay, a real man go out there and work 2 jobs if he have to for his family. A real man will go out there and get himself hurt for his family. I had a friend that was on life because he wouldn't let. A couple of guys were going to rob him, and they were going to take his Escalade. And so he was going to let them have the Escalade. But after they got the Escalade, they wanted to take the keys and go in the house. And his wife and daughter was in there. Well, that's where he put up the struggle. He was on life, but he was not going to let them. See, honorable. He was not going to let them get to his wife and his daughter. And I thought, like I said, this is the kind of thing that we were raised, that we were supposed to do. And this is what it is. That's why the Bible even says, it says to love your wife as Christ loved the church. Well, Christ put his life on the line for the church, for the people. See, and that's what a man would do for his family. But is that being reciprocated today? Is that really being reciprocated? Do you feel that women go above and beyond for the man when it comes to the relationship? Let's listen to more to the John Griffin. He's definitely spitting some truth here.
Do whatever it takes. And I can tell you, once you start bringing babies into the world, you feel like Superman. Like, you will just lay it out there. You will do everything in your power to make sure that kid, that your wife, are safe and healthy and are thriving. So you put in the extra hours at work. You do what you can around the house. You're doing everything that you think is necessary for everyone to achieve their goals, to be healthy, happy, and content in their world. Unfortunately, women don't see that as sacrifice. They see that as par for the course. Like, it's just baseline. What you're offering at that level, even though it might be far more than anything that you ever thought was possible, and from an external perspective, people would say, yeah, he's really given a lot to this relationship. Well, she may not have that same opinion. She might think that you aren't giving enough, that she's got a disproportionate share of the burden, that she's more engaged, say, with the kids or the cleaning or the house or something. And because of that, she's going to expect more from you. And she's going to have this conversation that is going to change everything. And it's subtle, but every man has this conversation with his wife at one point or another. And once you've had this conversation, just know that the seeds of your simpness or your simptitude are being planted.
Not the simptitude.
So the conversation goes something like this. She says, I don't think you're doing enough around the house. And you go back with, I don't know what you're talking about. I think I do a ton around the house. I think I'm helping out a lot. And she says, well, there's just so many things that need to be done that you just don't see. And you respond with, well, if you tell me what needs to be done, I'll just do it. And then she comes back with this. And this is the key right here. I don't want to have to tell you. I want you to just know what needs to be done. Yeah.
Well, I hate that.
It seems innocuous enough. You think, wait a second.
That is not cool.
I just need to have a higher level of awareness. I don't know what she's talking about, whatever. I always put my radar up and I'll just try to be more aware of things that need to be done. So you think, okay, fine. I will do my best to just know what needs to be done. But if you need to see something, you just tell me. Now, keep in mind that by the time this conversation has happened, there's already been a certain amount of withdrawal of affection, silent treatments, expressions of dissatisfaction from her to you about, her lack of, being impressed with your contributions to the household. So now there is this implicit threat that unless you pick up your game, that you're not going to be the beneficiary of a lot of those marital experiences that you got into this game for to begin with. So sex is going to be off the table. Affection is going to be off the table. Even having a friend, companion, someone that you enjoy hanging out with is going to disappear. So you start doing everything you can. You start simping. You start finding ways that you can contribute to the household in any way possible. But there is no way that you will ever know what she needs you to do. And so as a result, you're going to fail. Now, to compensate for your failure, you're going to start doing extra stuff. You're going to start buying her gifts. You're going to start asking her all the time, how are you feeling today? Is there anything I can do for you? You're going to start becoming an indentured servant to her because you're trying to make her happy. You want her to be happy so that you can have a happy life too. That's where that whole idea of happy wife, happy life has come from. It's because other men have had that conversation and they realize that the only way that they're going to have any peace in their life and remain married is to find ways to make her happy. Well, this begins not just the simping, which is the behavior, but the underlying problem is so much more dramatic. And I would suggest that there is emotional trauma associated with it on the par with emotional abuse. Let's talk about that next. Debo.
See, as we continue to watch this video, he's definitely hitting on some subjects, because that's one of the tactics that women do choose to do is, I work too, so you can help around the house. And like I said, I just looked at a stat the other day, and the stat in itself said that men do 64% of the housework. They were doing 60% of the dishes, 64% of the laundry, 64% of the cleaning of the house. Women did 19%. I'm gonna see if I can get the stat up here before the show ends, because I thought it was an interesting stat. I'll put it up if I can find it here. But at the same time, it's an interesting stat because now matter of fact, my co-host here, Shay, did a podcast on marriage was draining women. And so my question was, what was they draining of? Because if men are doing 64% of the housework, they're spending more time with the kids. Because I know in my relationship, I did that. I was at home in the daytime with my kid. I worked at night at that time. So I was at the house with my son and her son in the daytime. I would get her son on and off the bus. So I spent the quality time. Did probably more dishwashing, more cleaning of the house, because I was at home in the daytime and worked at night. I still worked the same job. I worked 12 hours at night, but at the same time, I still did my share. But I never had that conversation. I did it because that's what I normally did. So, but like I said, you end up doing more, and I can see where, like I said, and the stats are out to show that men are more inclined to do housework than a woman is today, which is interesting. But like I say, John is really cooking. He's a life coach. I'm gonna definitely have this video. It's going to be in the description if you want to see the video in its entirety, and you want to sign up. I think he's also a life coach, so he definitely put that in. I'm sure that's probably in the description as well. And it's a beautiful.
Don't go away, buddy. I need you to stay nearby.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, I need you to stay nearby. I need to be able to see you. Do you want me to give you a treat?
And now you got.
So, like I said earlier, when I'm describing a simp, what's happening there is the man's setting aside or losing his self-respect and his dignity. And when you're in the dating process and you set aside your self-respect and dignity in the process of what you think is a seduction, even though it might be something else, well, the trauma associated with that is relatively minor. It's more of a self-esteem thing at that point. But when you've been married to a woman and you've been put into this position where now you're being asked, or forced, I should say, coerced is probably a better word. Extorted might be strong enough. To simp for your wife. Well, that fucks with your head. That gets in there deep. It doesn't happen right away. Sometimes it takes until after the divorce before you reflect back on it and you realize how much you lost yourself in that moment, how much you gave of yourself, and how little you got in return. The psychological trauma that goes from being almost placed in a role of emotional servitude to another human being, whether it's in a marriage or in any kind of relationship, is pretty significant. It's pretty dramatic. And this Diddy trial is on, there's a lot of physical and emotional abuse that happened in those relationships. And of course, it was perverted and weird beyond all comprehension. But there's a psychological aspect of it that I think caused the most trauma. And I would liken the kind of trauma that men come out of marriage with when they reflect back on their surrender of their self-respect and their dignity on behalf of this relationship, on behalf of this woman. It has that kind of effect on your mind where you really do lose yourself. Your identity gets lost in this situation because it's hard for you to embrace this guy that you were at that time because you have no respect for him. You don't want that to be you. There's shame associated with it. And that shame is powerful. And the more shame you feel, the more depressed and traumatized you become. So simping in a marriage is not just a step toward divorce, a big step toward divorce. It's a big step toward mental illness, to shame, to depression, to losing respect for yourself. It's the kind of thing that you don't, like I said, realize until after you're out of the marriage. Now,
And notice all the emotional damage that he's putting on the man, because like I said, we tend to internalize things and hold things in for that reason, because we are men. Once again, that honor, because that's what you're supposed to do. But at the same time, again, like I said, we don't have a problem with it. We just have a problem with it being exploited. We always want to, as men, we would want to take care of our women. We want to take care of our children. That's nature for us. That's the way we were geared. And from day one, your father being an example of, like I said, my father worked like 3 jobs. He was West Indian, so that was like a commonplace for a West Indian man to do. He did a lot of different work and a lot of jobs at the same time. But his job was to take care of his family. So those values is passed on to his son, because if you watched the man do this and you saw him do this, and he took us on many trips to Barbados. I was there every year for 3 weeks. I don't know how he got a 3-week vacation. I still ain't figured that out, but he had a 3-week vacation every year. We went to Barbados for 3 weeks around Christmas time, which was where he was from. But at the same time, these things play an important part in understanding who, what a man is. And like I said, but if you're exploiting it, I'm sure it can cause a lot of damage to you mentally, because a lot of times today we don't have the same type of woman. We got a different one. We have what we call the modern woman, which is different than the woman of the past. So you have people that frowned upon these things and will use these things against you. And when you use the wrong way, it can cause emotional damage. It can cause psychological damage. We all know that these things play out within the mindset of a man here. Let's listen to more what John has to say here.
Somewhat fortunate to experience it, when my daughter defined it for me and I realized that's what I was, and I realized that I was experiencing shame as a result of it.
The realization that he was a simp.
The only thing that you can do, and I didn't do this at this point, the only thing that you can do is to get out of that marriage. Or I guess you could go to therapy. I mean, you could try addressing this issue in therapy. I doubt that would work, because if your relationship has evolved or devolved to this state where simping is a big part of the dynamic between,
because you don't get a second chance to make a first impression. Once you start simping, there's no way you can start unsimping. And that's what he's saying here now, that it will be in his best interest to leave the marriage than to stay within the marriage, because once you get here, you can't go back. See, because nobody's what you are, what you first put out there. Like I say, you don't get a second chance to make a first impression. The impression has already been pressed and placed there. So this is who you are. And we can't see you for nothing other than what you are. So trying to recreate yourself when I already got a mindset of what you are would be impossible to do. So again, like he said, he's telling the truth here. So let's listen on.
Between the two of you, I don't see how it can be be saved. It seems to me that that's beyond saving. All right, you guys, I think that's all I got for you today. I hope this video has been enlightening. I know that when you go through that kind of experience and you have that shame and that trauma that comes with it, it's really hard to come to terms with. And I hope that this video, by just shedding some light on it, will help you understand that you're not alone in this situation, that lots and lots and lots of men are either going through it right now or have gone through it in the past. Simping is not something that we do naturally. It's something that we either coerce ourselves into through a lack of self-respect. No, Debu, leave it. Or it's something we get coerced into, through a relationship like that. Debu, no, don't play with that. Debu thinks this thing is a stick. He wants to play with it. All right, that's all I got for you. I hope you've enjoyed the video.
We're going to stop it right there. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it was insightful for you as a man. No, in no way, in no shape or form are we indicating that you need to not be married. Because I know I've often said this to Shay on many occasions. There's nothing in marriage for a man, okay? There's nothing, because everything is cut and dry. And like I say, family court is one-sided, and you got to deal with it accordingly. I mean, you're going to lose in that every time. Most of the time, you're going to lose. I think it's like 96 or 97. That's too high because it's over 95. So the odds of you winning are very slim to none. So we got to deal with that reality as well. The thing here is, like I said, we all have to do better. And I'm not just saying women, I'm saying both men and women. But like I said, we're in charge of who we marry. So I don't even know if there's a right way to pick out or to pick a woman today, because there's so many things that you would have to look at and so many dynamics to how people take things today. And like I said, it would just be hard to do this. So, and you don't want to go out and go, oh, be careful, because you can get hurt. No. We're men, so we have to deal with the things the way we deal with them. And like I said, you find love where you find it. You find a nice young lady that you can bear with, someone who is genuine and true. And like I said, that's hard to find, because everybody wear masks, and everybody want to give you their best representation because you meet the person's representation, and that's always good until you actually get in a relationship, and that's when things turn and become sour and not good. But like I said, that's the show for today. I hope you enjoyed the show. I hope everything is good. And I would like for you guys to come back. We're going to do a follow-up. And be sure to comment. Let me know what you think here, because it's important to understand what is being said. And I would like to know how you feel. So if you shared the show, you like the show, by all means, comment. Let us know what you feel about it. Because me and Shay often have this conversation. And I often say the same thing. When I said I want to get the stats up, I couldn't locate them, but I'm gonna get them, and I'll put them in one of my next shows, just to to reiterate that men are doing more housework, meaning working in the home, meaning cleaning and washing dishes and washing clothes. They're doing way more than a woman is doing, and still maintaining a full-time job. And so, like I said, in so many words, it's almost like the man is becoming the woman, but God created man, and then he created the woman for man. See, man submissive to God, woman submissive to man. That might step on some of y'all toes, and make y'all feel a certain way into your feelings, but this is what it is. This is the reality. And the only way we can have success is we follow the word of God. In that sense, the Bible is an important instruction manual on how to live. And those of you who don't believe it, I understand that as well. But all the things that we do, even from our behaviors, came from the Bible. So, I mean, you take it the way you want to take it how you want to take it. But then, like I say, this is Luke of the LUKE-N-SHAE'S podcast. And I hope you like this show. I would like to hear your feedback. I would like to know what you think. And the description of the show that we just watched will be found in the description down below. And like I said, join me next time with another hot topic. And this is one of the hottest topics right here. So join me again with another hot topic and let us know what you think. And as always, we say be safe out here in the street. Be careful, love, and keep everything